Hello, welcome to Let's Paint. Let's do a wonderful painting today. I cannot express in words how excited I am right now to paint. It is beyond my comprehension of the physical realm of this world. There's no word in the Latin dictionary to describe that, of how excited I feel. What's up guys, welcome to Let's Paint. I'm Christian. This is part 2 of a 3-part painting this week. If you missed part 1, you can click here. If you want to skip over to part 3 of this painting, you can click here. If you want to watch the entire painting in its entirety, unedited, you can click right here. Let's do a Let's Paint. Okay, I think we can just about start working up into the foreground today. So, let's grab same 2-inch brush. We're going to use the 2-inch brush for a lot of stuff. Once you make friends with it, you will be able to do all kinds of beautiful, beautiful effects with this big old 2-inch brush that you would use to paint a house. We're going to go into some of that sap green, and tap into the color. We're going to go into the sap green and tap the color. Just the top corner of that brush there. And while we're there, we'll grab a little bit of that mountain color just to darken it a little bit. Don't want it too dark. This is going to be far away, so it's going to be lighter. Just the top corner of that brush. Okay. Maybe there's a little grove of trees over on this side, right under those clouds. So all we're going to do is we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. That way it's lighter up at the top of the trees and darker toward the bottom where there's more leaves. Let's just go right in here and just start tapping. Just using the top corner. Just some general shapes. Don't need anything crazy today. This tree got strong. You got plenty of water. And then when you start to run out of color, if you tap very gently, it's going to seem like you got the trees way far in the distance there. You didn't even do a thing to get it like that. Maybe there's a big tree off in the distance over there. And then while we're here, we're gonna put in just some grassy areas, and all we're gonna do is just push up. Just tapping the brush into that color. Just that mountain color and sap green. And we're just gonna tap up with the 2-inch brush. Don't want it super dark. All right. Now, while we're here, let's pull in some reflection. So all we're gonna do is just grab wherever you want the bottom of your land to be. You're just gonna pull down, straight down. So in my mind, the farthest away is gonna be here. So we're gonna pull a little bit gently, more gently. And as you get to the edges, pull a little bit harder, and it looks like it's a lot closer to you. There's a big tree, pull that down. And a tree there, we'll pull that down. And just like that, it's almost like we're at the edge of a little pond here. And then very gently, 2 hairs and some air, maybe even 1 hair and some air. Right across those reflections, you're just gonna pull very, very gently. We're gonna just mystify that. And now it looks like we have that nice watery effect. We're right on the edge of the pond, overlooking that mountain. So we have our script liner brush here. We're gonna go right into some paint thinner or mineral spirits. We're gonna grab some of that dark sap green and mountain color that we used before. And you want it thin, almost like if it was ink, because we want it to flow. So can almost see it's ready to run there. And just turn the brush. Bring it to a nice chiseled edge there. We're just gonna go ahead and put a couple little chunks in there. Nothing crazy. That one grows right up over that tree. Here, there's one that just, oh, he grew right out of there. But again, these are far away, so there's not going to be too much detail. We just want to make it look like a distant little grove of trees growing out there in the sunlight. Now, with a 1-inch brush or even a 2-inch brush, we're going to put just a couple little highlights on some of these trees. So we'll go right in, do some yellow ochre, or ochre if you prefer, and a tiny little bit of the cad yellow. We don't want these too bright. All right. So now we're thinking about now we want to start thinking about some form in these trees. So leaves always tend to grow in little clumps. So we're gonna achieve that effect by just working in little clumps here. And I'm gonna start above the shadow color and just tap. Again, I'm working in those little clumps. These are very far away, so they're not gonna have a ton of, you're not gonna be able to see all the highlights, but you'll see some of them. And maybe on this tree. Maybe some of these bushes. I get to see some color. And I'm leaving a lot of dark areas in there because the dark areas show all your shadows, and when you have light against dark, it's very striking. It makes your painting a lot more interesting. Maybe there's a little bush right there. Maybe we'll get crazy. We'll go into a little alizarin crimson. Give us like an orangey kind of color. Maybe that little bush has a little, there we go. A little orange on him. Maybe this tree right here, he's a little bit weaker. He didn't have as many leaves. And he just grew right up out of there. So did this guy over here. See how I'm working in those little clumps of leaves? It makes your tree really, really stand out. Oh, pardon me. And while we're here, we'll highlight some of these grassy areas. So I'm just tapping into the color again. And all I'm gonna do is just push up. Just wanna give a little highlight just to these little grassy areas out here. Maybe there's even a little bush that lives over here. And all I'm doing to make that little bush is just using the corner of the brush. It's darker over here. And we'll go back in, redefine our edge, very lightly come across. And just like that, you have a happy little edge of that pond just overlooking that big mountain. It's almost like we're on a cliff almost overlooking that beautiful mountain. Okay, now let's get a little bit crazy today. Let's start moving forward a little bit. Now in my world, maybe there was a tree growing out here in the middle of the pond, but then it flooded, there was a flood, and the water rose up, but he's still growing out there somehow. It's a miracle, but he's growing out there. And he lives right about there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some Van Dyke Brown, pull it out flat, just like we've been doing, get that little roll of paint, and let's just carve our tree here today. Maybe, there he is. And all I'm doing is just touching the canvas I want him hanging over a little bit. And then you come and add in the other side of that tree. Beautiful. Let's give him a branch or two. Maybe there's a branch that comes out over here. Maybe he got pushed over. Maybe the water, when it was rushing in, knocked him over. You gotta make up little stories for your paintings. Because if you enjoy your painting, others will too. Okay, now we have a basic little trunk of our tree, but we're gonna do something kind of sneaky today. So we're gonna grab a fan brush, any size, any fan brush, and just go into a little bit of that Van Dyke brown, a little bit. And right beneath this tree, there's gonna be a reflection in the water. So you're just gonna mirror what's going on there, just a little bit. Let's see, it has a branch that comes up right about there. And it's got another branch that's leaning out over there. Doesn't have to be exact. We're not looking for anything exact. Okay, let's go ahead and put some leaves on this tree. Go into that same dirty sap green color. We're gonna make it a little darker, so we're gonna grab some of that mountain mix. That was just Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, and a little Van Dyke brown. But we want quite a bit of a darker color. Now we're gonna start seeing some detail in these trees. So I'm just tapping the corner of that brush. We want quite a bit of color in the brush there. It's one problem you might run into is you may not have enough paint in your brush. You might run into some problems. So this tree, he's kind of leaning over this way, so let's just, using the corner of the brush, let's just tap out some beautiful little leaves. Again, working in those little clumps. Maybe there's a little clump there. Maybe there's a little clump out here. I'm just tapping downward with the corner of that brush, and it's just gonna make thousands of little leaves. Somehow he's just growing out there, and I don't understand how. All right, let's go back to our 1-inch brush here that has some of that yellow on it, and let's just go into some cad yellow. A little bit of sap green, it's a little too bright. There we go. And we're gonna thin this paint out a little bit by just going into some of the paint thinner. Just a little bit, don't need a ton. Just so it's thinner than the paint that's up there. And you'll see, grab a little yellow ochre too. I'm feeling kind of daring. But we want this tree to be a lot brighter than the other trees. And you'll see right on your palette, you're making the exact pattern we're gonna make here. And that should be right on the end of your brush. All the paint webbed through there. That's what we're going after. So I'm just pulling it in one direction. I'm actually gonna thin it out a little bit more. There we go. All those wonderful colors are right in there on the end of your brush. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work in our clumps, go right above that dark color, and just touch. Very lightly, just touch. And all of a sudden, all these little things are gonna start jumping out at you. And if you work in those clumps, it's gonna give your tree some dimension. Maybe there's a little light zinging through right there. But you have to, it's a very gentle touch. Otherwise, you're gonna end up making a big mud slick right across your tree there. And we'll give this guy some too. And that tree is just hanging right out there in the water, having a good time. While we're here, we have that color on the brush. Let's go and put some leaves in the reflection. Don't need a ton. Just it needs to be close. No one's gonna notice. Let's put a little highlight on that tree there, on the trunk of that tree. So we're just gonna go right into some titanium white. Grab a little bit of Van Dyke brown. And we don't want to overmix this. We want to leave it marbled so you have all different sorts of colors going on in there. We even have a little pink in there, and that's okay. All we're gonna do is just on if the light's coming from this side, we're just gonna touch and just pull across. Just let the paint work. It'll grab off what it wants and give you back what's left. Just a little highlight, just to give it a little dimension in there. Okay. Now with a dry 2-inch brush, we're very lightly gonna just right at the bottom of the tree and just pull down. One stroke. And all I'm doing is, after I do that, I'm wiping off the brush a little bit, just so I'm not bringing yellow and brown all the way into the water. And then very, very lightly, one little stroke across that reflection. And just like that, you have a beautiful, beautiful mirror reflection of that tree in the water. And it was so simple, and I knew you could do it. Very simple. Thank you so much for watching. If you missed, wow. Thank you so much for watching part 2 of this week's painting. If you missed part 1, you can click here. If you wanted to jump over to Friday's video, part 3, you can click here. If you want to watch the entire painting in its entirety, unedited, you can click here. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below, like this video, comment suggestions, challenges, anything you want to see from us. You guys are awesome. Deuces. Dude. Be excellent to one another, each other. So crates.
You're a hat.